The trouble with some kinds of warfare is that they destroy all moral decency in susceptible types. Warfare of these kinds will dump the destroyed survivors back into an innocent population that is incapable of even imagining what such returned soldiers might do. Teachings of the Golden Path, Bene Gesserit Archives. Welcome back to Dune Saga, everyone. This is Season 2 of our Dune Houses of the Landsrod campaign. I am Eric at Maron Recluse Online, your game master for this epic multi-arc awesome adventure series, which continues tonight with our third storyline, Instruments of Canley. This program features adult situations and language and may not be suitable for all ages. Listener discretion is advised. We are Vorpal Tales, and we play a wide assortment of games 7 days a week that fall into two categories: awesome adventures and terrifying tales. So be sure to check out the calendar on vorpaltales.com and stay up to date with all of our shows. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Dune Adventures of the Imperium in PDF format on DriveThruRPG or in physical copy at modifius.com/Dune. While you're on DriveThruRPG, check out some of our very own Vorpal Tales supplements and that are available for sale, which include characters, monsters, and scenarios made for many of the games that we play weekly. Also, remember to follow Modifius Entertainment and Vorpal Tales on Twitch. Visit our website and find the link to join our Discord. We're on most social media outlets, including YouTube, where you can catch up on previous episodes. So remember to follow, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all the updates. Be sure to check out Vorpal Tales sponsors and affiliates like Dungeon Crate and Gemhammer and Sons. If you want to scratch that loot crate itch with a membership to Dungeon Crate, every box is chock full of dice, miniatures, tabletop terrain, and original adventures perfect for your D&D campaign. Sign up for your box at dungeoncrate.com. New members can use a discount code VorpalTalesDC in all caps for $5 off any new subscription. For dice, books, magic items, and more, check out Gemhammer Shop at shop.gemhammer.com, and make sure to check out their latest Kickstarter, Rollock's Guide to Violence. We want to thank Modifius Entertainment for making awesome games for us to play and for providing support to their players. We want to give a special shout out to Infraction, Mocha Music, Repulsive Sound, Angia, Machinima Sound, and Bleer Moon for the use of their excellent music. You can find more excellent ambient sounds and tunes over at bandcamp.com, elpiri.com, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Also, we want to thank Roll20 for the use of their virtual tabletop platform, perfect for hosting our games. As always, we'd like to give a big thanks to our patrons for supporting what we do and for helping us to grow. Be sure to check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/VorpalTales to find out how you too can be awesome and support what we do. And last but certainly not least, thank you, our viewers and fans, for tuning in. Our host entourage is here and ready to engage in the deadliest of intrigues, agents of the Imperium. Remind our audience who you are, where they can find you online, and who you will be playing this evening. Beginning with Jared.
Hello, my name is Jared. I'm going to let my character be introduced in the story, so I'm not going to tell you much about him, but my name is Archibald. That's about it. And you can find me at Real Life Jared on the World Wide Web. But yeah, I'm excited.
Rachel.
Hello, my name is Rachel. You can find me Stolen Fires pretty much everywhere. And tonight I will be playing the House Heir, Lady Daphne.
Excellent. Ambrose?
Hey everybody, I'm Ambrose. My pronouns are he or they. You can find me all over the internet as Am Changeling, because me, Am Changeling. You can also find me on Etsy at Neat and Co Designs, and tonight I shall be playing Lysander Aphelion, whose pronouns are he, him, the sword master of the house.
Yes. Devin.
Hello, I am Devin. You can find me online at Sword of Sullied, and tonight I am playing Norma, the Bene Gesserit. Reverend
Which
Mother.
is our Reverend Mother.
Yeah.
Panda.
Oh, you can find me all about the internet as at Vebbles, including Twitter and Instagram. My Instagram's particularly popular. I will be playing another Bene Gesserit, who's not a Reverend anything, who is Tia, who specializes in childcare.
Yes. Right, and Key?
Hello, I'm Key Sama, now with 50% more keys. You can find me on Twitter at Truki-sama, and tonight I will be playing Pardo Reed, who has always been the house's mentat.
Always.
Always.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And now for a very short recap of the previous episode. Ambrose, if you would be so kind as to read said recap.
Absolutely. We begin with a small addition to the history of House Cheshire. It used to be a major house with unquestionable control of the planet Jabberwock. Originally, we were allied with House Carroll, working together on ornithopter designs until we caught House Carroll trying to steal our designs. This locked us into a decades-long war of vendetta, which culminated in the death of the Duke and his fiancée. Investigations revealed that his own brother had arranged the crime for which he was imprisoned. However, House Cheshire's status and control of the planet declined as House Drunenbar was raised to Major House and House Cheshire to Minor. Thus was the house as Lady Adeline, Daphne's mother, inherited it. The story opens on Wallach Ix. Norma is preparing to leave. Another woman is with her, and clearly does not want Norma to leave. She worries that Norma will not survive the upcoming agony, but Norma seems confident of her ability to get through it. The next day, they bring her to a type of medical room. In the center of the room is a suspensor table, complete with straps and mouthguard to restrain Norma. And spice. There's spice here. Another Bene Gesserit is here, named Thea, here to help administer the agony. If you fail, I will mourn you, says the Mother Superior, as she begins to inflict the agony on Norma, while speaking of the Grail and their long project. Norma convulses with the pain. She begins hearing voices, experiencing herself as a wave of consciousness floating among the void. She encounters a female guild navigator, and they float together. She explains the tremendous moral compromises their ancestors have made in order to attain the power they have, and offers to become a beacon for Norma. As Norma makes her choice to let the woman in, she feels her body begin to tear apart. She is dying. But with the help of her new friend, she just manages to survive. Norma comes to. The Mother Superior directs the other sisters to tend to Norma while she motions for Thea to follow. She explains that there's a special task she needs Thea to do, resorting to a bit of cloak and dagger type tactics to communicate. Several days later, after Norma has had a chance to recuperate, both her and Norma are summoned to the Mother Superior's office. She explains they are in a time of crisis. The Tlilaxu have discovered data about the Bene Gesserit breeding program, and a schism threatens the entire order. The boy can no longer remain on Wallach, so the Reverend Mother entrusts him to Norma and Tia. Switch to Daphne and Lysander attending a fancy ball on Jabberwock with Duchess Adeline. Adeline is coaching Daphne in the art of the dalliance, while Lysander keeps an eye on Daphne. The ball is ostensibly to celebrate the host house receiving an extra import contract. In an attempt to prove to her mother that she knows what she's doing, Daphne uses her social skills to uncover some behind-the-scenes graft which allowed this house to acquire the contract. She also comes across a surprise guest. A tall man with a visible prosthetic, bearing the black diamond mark of a Suk doctor. He's in full house regalia, but no one seems to know which house. The onlookers name him as the doctor to House Carroll. A waiter brings Daphne a drink, indicating it's in thanks for a drink she herself sent to someone. Lysander, ever suspicious, intercepts. He quietly tests the drink for poison, The drink itself is unpoisoned, but a mild poison has been painted on the stem. The doctor interjects, warning Daphne against drinking anything here. He speaks further, claiming to have information about Daphne's missing sister. It seems from his demeanor that he's not inclined to give this information away for free, but he does seem inclined to defect from his house. As Lysander is evaluating this man, Daphne's mother enters the room glaring at the doctor. "What are you doing here?" He swears Alicia, Adelaide's other daughter, is alive. He's here because he objects to Carol's growing reliance on Ixian devices. He also claims to have more information on the death of Daphne's grandfather. Adelaide is suspicious, but Daphne, having encountered these Ixian thinking machines before, is willing to hear him out. Lysander guides the group safely out of the party. Moving towards our ornithopter, he is slumped against the chassis, and some very unfriendly people are coming our way. Lysander tells the woman to get to the thopter while he provides covering fire and does a "Get down, Mr. President" on Daphne and Adelaide. The soldiers on the thopter pad now return fire. Daphne sprints for the thopter, intending to get it running. She leaps in, but her mother stumbles and she hears the Sook doctor say, "She's been hit." Lysander covers our exit as the doctor begins treating the Duchess right there. Daphne uses her prana bindu to suppress her stress response long enough to get us to safety, which is the roof of a nearby medical facility operated by House Efcardis. The doctor nearly collapses, but Daphne supports him as she helps him limp into the building. Meanwhile, Pardo. He's among people. They claim to be trustworthy, but if they are, why did they just paralyze him? One of them comments, "Back to Tlilax with you. Don't worry, your friends won't miss you." Pardo sees one of them change into him. When he wakes up, he's on a balcony of some kind. He's brought before a Tlilaxu master. "Welcome back, Master Mentat," he says. He mentions something about Quillian being purged, but says Pardo is a much better gift. He insists that Pardo will now help them punish House Cheshire for their insults. They say they have made Pardo and can unmake him. She shows him video feeds of his mother. Pardo, however, cannot handle this and passes out. He comes to with someone slapping him across the face. He refuses to accept this as his mother. The master explains that love can overcome any conditioning. At some point, he will hear a key phrase. This will activate his conditioning, and he will strike a blow against House Cheshire. Pardo says this is all unnecessary, and he would have just helped. House Cheshire, after all, required heresy of him. Offended, however, he accepts. He's brought back to his room before a certain amount of time before being released. Overnight, however, the lights in his room go out and the door beeps. No guards, no sentries. He takes advantage of this and slips out, looking for any sort of central records room. But this is more like an arcology, and any records are likely stored in mentats. Pardo leaves the building and no one stops him. He gets suspicious. Someone is allowing this to happen. But he decides to stow away anyhow. He comes across a certain nobleman, a seeming exile who failed a war of assassins and now serves the guild. Pardo decides to approach the man, identifies himself as a member of House Cheshire, and says he would like to return home. He's granted accommodations. A few systems later, he's visited by some guild representatives who ask if he's Pardo Reed. One of them puts something on the table. He hears a voice. It's Master Alwyn, subtly threatening. He says something in the whistling language. He wakes up in a strange room with no memory of how he got there. The last thing he remembers doing was meeting with everyone on Gamont. Shift to Davos. He's on a highliner on the way to Arrakis and signing a waiver indemnifying the guild of any tragedy which may befall him or his property while planetside. He's been sent ahead of the rest of the house to make contact with the Fremen and other smugglers. He's headed towards Carthage, a city constructed to appeal to Harkonnens. Davos has been recommended to seek out a guy named Iblis, who can introduce him to the right people to build their own network. Davos meets Iblis in essentially a hive of scum and villainy, buying him some drinks to soften him up a bit. They begin negotiating. Iblis invites Davos on a nighttime sortie, recognizing him as someone unacclimated to the desert. Davos, deciding to trust him, is in an ornithopter beyond the shield wall, past where most Harkonnens are willing to go, and thus where the smugglers meet. He promises to introduce him to a woman named Dany and her cartel. It's a name he remembers from Ix. He knows her already. They land at a quasi-temporary smuggler's camp on an outcropping. Moving through the camp, it appears as though the Fremen are handing over spice to the smugglers with intent for it to be delivered to the guild. Likely bribes to entice the guild to turn their satellites away at certain times of the night. Despite a spiky introduction, Iblis introduces Davos to the other smugglers and a small handful of Fremen, including a smuggler named Jabal and Fremen named Stosk. He reacts well to Davos spitting on the ground in front of him, and they begin dealing. That's when they hear the sound of ornithopter wings. Davos hands over 2 data pads showing what Cheshire can offer these people, and tells them to seek out the cat when it lands. And now it's time to leave, as everyone scatters while the Harkonnen thopter begins strafing the camp. "Worm sign!" yells one of the Fremen. The explosions have drawn the attention of a sandworm. Davos and Iblis continue dashing towards their own ornithopter. Once inside, play cat and mouse to the point where Davos baits the Harkonnen thopter into crashing. That's enough to impress the smugglers and they get to safety. Sometime later, everyone recollects on Jabberwock and around the wounded Duchess. Daphne is glad to see everyone, Mossam especially. Omelas brings us into the Situation Room, sans Tia. She takes the very Bene Gesserit tack of tending the children and playing the game of what can we figure out about the Situation Room without asking anyone? Omelas reveals a dire situation on the moons of Jabberwock, just as Pardo walks in. Or is it Pardo?
Excellent. Thank you for reading, Ambrose, and thank you to Rachel for writing those excellent recaps as always. And now we shall continue with our current story, Instruments of Canley. All right, so we're going to pick it up exactly where we left off, more or less. Because the Duchess was injured and she spent some time recuperating off-world, the Sook Doctor, Dr. Sloan, recommends that she isn't quite fit for regular duties as would befit someone of her, Regis Familia status. So he sort of quietly recommends that she be admitted to the medical wing of the castle so that she can rest and then once she's in full control of her faculties and everything, that's his doctoral recommendation, which she is fine to abide by, but she first wanted to get a glimpse of everybody before she heads out that way. A small note about Castle Jabberwock itself: it's located atop a large bluff which overlooks a very large city below. Villages are nestled around its edges and all sort of straddling a long, winding river that empties into a nearby ocean. Many wild cats roam the castle halls and grounds, and a statue of a Jabberwockian battle cat looms large in the central courtyard. So with with Adeline being escorted to the medical wing by the Souk doctor, unless there are any objections, the rest of you are called to the situation room by her advisor, Omelas, who is convening an emergency meeting of sorts with everyone present. Everyone's there, including Pardo, who you have not seen for some time. Just so everybody is aware, this takes place roughly 6 to 8 months after season 1, or the events that occurred on Gamant and Ishia and so on. So you've had plenty of time to decide what it is that you wanted to do with Pardo after his transgressions on Ix. We're going to say, for the sake of brevity, that Omelas and the Duchess were lenient in his reprimand, but of course behind the scenes, Omelas and Gwillian have been shadowing him around the castle and limiting his activities as Marshal of House Cheshire. So despite this, he's seemingly on a very, very short leash at the moment. They're keeping him under observation. All of you are aware of this, with the exception of perhaps Thea. When you arrive, you see the Omelas invites everybody inside the situation room. It's up to, and he gives a cautious look to Norma upon waiting at the door for everyone to pass through. When he communicates with just eye movements, such as the way with House Cheshire's secret language, that if the other Bene Gesserit is to be admitted, it should only be so with her permission, because he doesn't know her. So if you wish it, Norma, you can admit Thea to the staff meeting.
Mossam and Bell are out there still, right? They're not coming in here.
Yeah, they're not. They're being tended to by somebody else, probably a house retainer of some sort. Lysander's people, you would imagine. But Gwillian is inside, and there are guards posted in and around the doorways inside the situation room.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of let him know that she's good, but I'm going to try and signal to Panda also to stay out there with kids.
Okay.
And I'd fill her in.
Mossam is a bit fidgety, but he's fine with standing there waiting. And that's not at all what they're going to be doing, of course. They're going to be playing the game of trying to figure out what's going on in the room, which they're very, very good at. But nonetheless, the rest of you are brought in. And you see Omelas regards all of you as you come inside. As a group, decide which moon of Jabberwock it is where you have your ornithopters being produced. Is it Snicker or Snack?
Let's go with Snicker.
Snicker.
It is. Okay. The Thopter moon. Okay.
I forgot we named them.
Yes. Oh, that was you. You named them, which is perfect.
Oh God, I totally forgot.
That's fine. It was a million years ago. Omelas, with a gravely voice, says, "We have a situation unfolding on the moons of Jabberwock that require our immediate attention as a house." Just so everybody gets an idea, this is what Omelas looks like. Just think Vincent Price. Anybody see? Because can everybody see that one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Just make sure it's showing up in Roll20. Excellent. Put that character right here. All right. You see, he brings everybody forward, and he's like, however, we need to address a lapse in security, he says. Namely, Marshal Reed, and he looks specifically at Pardo. As much as it pains me to say this, it has come to our attention that his inclusion to our inner circle has become a liability. This is evident from his consistent inquiries and clandestine activities outside of mission parameters. In his absence from Jabberwock, we have uncovered experiments the Marshal has conducted on our own troops with melange acquired on Ishia. This has created dependencies in at least one of them. There's no telling what other damage this mentat has caused that we have not uncovered. And you see, he looks to Gwillian as he kind of turns it over to him for a moment to kind of throw his 2 cents into it. I first learned of this behavior back on Ix when Pardo reached out to me personally and began asking for blackmail-worthy material on Lysander. We can only speculate as to why he would want to do this. I've had my people watching him since our return from Ix months ago, and there's definitely something off with the Marshal. Omelis and I have begrudgingly worked with one another to secure the premises and coordinated to reveal this duplicitous activity at the appropriate time. Throwing it back to Omelis, he's like, we chose to bring up this breach in security with you present, Your Grace. He says, and he looks to Daphne when he says that. Normally, when the Duchess is not present, Omelis is the head of household, but being as your mother wants to put you in more positions of command, he's referring to you now as Your Grace. So you are technically in command of the session. You see from a small voice box in the corner, you hear the Duchess's voice coming from the medical wing. I appreciate the diligence of Omelis, William. Perhaps Pardo should be given a chance to stand forth and defend himself. What do you say regarding these allegations, Marshal?
Every action I've taken has been a security countermeasure. I was testing to see if one could get blackmail. I was testing the loyalty of the people within our house. I was doing what had to be done. I know nothing of some of these people. He gestures to everyone at the table. I need to make sure that everyone present could be trusted. It is a situation that becomes infinitely harder when anyone I'm talking to could change their face at any moment.
Oh.
That is all.
William seems to have gotten that jab when he said when everybody's face could just change at any moment. You see, he kind of like gives you the laser eyes. And you see Omelis says, what exactly are you implying here, Marshal?
I'm implying that the lack of security is only an issue because in order to get things secure, I need to breach security to get information. It's a very strange cycle.
It's a good argument, actually. Okay. So this is social sort of combat time. Think of this as sort of like a little mini trial, where basically an accusation is being levied at Pardo, and Pardo is looking around the room for defense, and Omelis and William are looking around the room for offense. So those of you who would side with Pardo, who have fought alongside him and so on and so forth, and believe what he's saying, you would join that side of the argument, so to speak. Basically, whoever it is that is going to be leading the defense or the prosecution in this case, you would roll your full dice, your full two d20s, along with any additional dice that you want to include. Use your talents or your communication abilities as usual. Try to make the case for or against this Pardo's particular defense or or prosecution, as it were. I believe that we have some dice rolling immediately. What do you got?
Rolled 2 successes on mine.
Okay. Pardo, I need you to roll a discipline check. And you can roll 2 dice for this. Or any additional dice. If you want to buy threat, you're more than welcome to do so, of course.
That's enough threat for one lifetime, I think. May I ask for what? Or is this just a flat discipline?
You are being observed right now.
Then I will add truth.
Oh,
Discipline
very good.
truth.
Very good.
I would also like to do a body language roll on Pardo.
Excellent.
Just sort of like
Roll-
looking for signs of deception when he was defending himself.
Sure. Roll a single d20 and see if you can roll underneath. I believe it would, in this case it would probably be truth, along with your discipline score. And if you have observation, that acts as a focus, which means if you get that number or below, it counts as a critical success, which means 2 instead of 1 success. Anybody else who wants to participate can roll as well.
I have the focus body language.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
All right, so should I roll just 1d20 or 2?
Yes, if you're assisting, you roll 1d20.
Okay. Well, so this is for Lady Daphne to try and figure out whose side she wants to take.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that would be a normal roll.
You're right. Yeah, if
Okay.
you're not assisting the observation, yeah, then you go ahead and roll regular. And don't forget your talents. If you have a Pranabindu conditioning, which many of you do, you can. If you're having to make a discipline or move test, you can re-roll one of those dice.
All
Ooh,
right,
you got a
I have.
complication.
Yeah.
You did get a success. Actually, I think that counts as 2 successes for you. So yeah. What did you get? What did you get total? I think you got a more or less the same thing, didn't you, Key?
I had gotten
A 2 and a 19 for his rolls.
So a complication, but also I think
2
you got at
successes.
least
a success.
2, yeah, you got 2 successes, so you matched. Oh,
Well,
okay.
Okay, then I'm going to use, if that's the way that was going to be, can I now use the Pranabindu to re-roll 1?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Oh, just the 1 success still.
This one, okay. All right, so it's kind of dead heat. You see, like Pardo is actually quite uncomfortable, but he seems to be maintaining his cool in such a tense situation. He seems to be, you know, looking straight ahead, and he seems pretty adamant in his actions and testing security for the house. And this is not unlike a mentat to do something like that, especially somebody like Pardo. So you're just a little like, okay. Make do with that what you will. Anybody else can join in as well if you wanted to make your own check. Otherwise, this would basically be a communication test with Pardo advocating for himself, of course, and anyone who is objecting to that and wants to, finds him accused of these crimes, as you know, and they would roll communication tests against, and we basically would tally the successes versus the against each other and see whichever has the most successes will basically win this particular contest. The contest, of course, is him basically throwing shade on William, saying, no, he's the one who you have to be really worried about, not me. It's like, yeah.
So, I was wondering, and this is probably going to sound kind of out there, but for my focus for understand is danger sense, or my focus for battle is tactics. Could I use either one of those to kind of figure out Pardo's motives?
One second. Just responding to many secret messages. I apologize.
No worries.
So could you repeat? Sorry.
So I was wondering if I could use a different skill to try and sense Pardo's motives, either danger sense for understand or tactics for battle.
Ooh. Okay. That sounds like an interesting idea. If you go with battle, I'm curious to know how you would do that.
Kind of having it in mind like a chess match where you're facing your opponent and you're trying to see the steps ahead that they're planning.
Oh, okay.
Multiple scenarios.
Yeah.
That would be an understand. Well, yeah, that would normally be a sort of an understand role to see like how he's playing the game. But since this is a sort of a combat, I'll let you roll. I'll let you roll battle, but I will with the caveat that you have to use truth as the motivating drive here, which probably isn't your strongest drive, I would imagine.
It's not my worst. It's 5.
Okay. Give myself a little bit of right here. 1 second. You get.
They're
you
blues. Yeah.
You rolled a nat 1, so that's 2 successes, and then you rolled a 5, which counted as another 2 successes. So you got 4. Yeah, you see the line of the way that Pardo is waging war here. It seems to be that he's not just trying to absolve himself; he's trying to implicate Gwillian as the real security threat. That seems to be sort of like underlying tone, and the course of his accusation seems to be going in that direction. And you can see Gwillian just sort of narrowing his eyes at him, like, "How dare you?"
So Daphne is going to ask Gwillian if anything Pardo has done has done material harm to the house or its interests.
Lie detector test time. How does Pardo react to that? What does he say in response?
Question Daphne had just asked.
Mm-hmm.
Just to confirm. Okay. I have done no harm compared to what the face dances have done. Many times we've stumbled upon corpses, and who killed them? Face dances. Important
Proof.
Targets murdered. Proof. I'd show you, but you're incredibly good at hiding bodies.
That's what I was paid to do, and it's like that's what I'm been tasked to do.
You and every other face dancer. There's too many of you wearing your face.
Are you done? He says.
Yes, I am done.
Good. And he's like, now let me show you what we have in our war chest. Mentat, he says, and he motions for Omelas, and he brings out the dismantled Ixiom probe from Farad's 5, and they dump the contents out on the table. And he's like, "What is that?" He's asking you specifically to identify what that is.
Scrapped parts from a probe of some sort.
This was found
Probe.
in your room.
I was making sure that every piece was thoroughly dismantled so that no one else could ever use such a thing. No one else could be forced to use such a thing by their peers. To read the mind of a being killed by a face dancer.
So you say. You see, he looks to Omelas, and he's just like, Adeline is just like quiet in contemplation. She's like, I leave this to you, Omelas. And she shuts off the comm. So he looks to you, Daphne, and the rest of you. One final roll. Pardo, give me a communications test. You're going to be up against Gwillian and anybody else. Whoever wants to take lead in prosecuting the marshal can do so.
So Daphne is going to try and sort of take like a middle of the road approach because Gwillian has not convinced her that Pardo is guilty of anything, but Pardo also hasn't really convinced Daphne that, like, she knows William kills a lot of people, but he kills them for the house.
Right.
So I don't know what sort of role that would be.
That's fine. You see, Melis is like, he looks around the table and he sort of takes the temperature in the room, and he sees that not everybody's jumping up to claw at Pardo's throat, and nobody's like coming to his staunch defense either. Second. So many messages. So he kind of deigns to you to either dismiss the notion or to pick it back up later, or kind of leave it as it is, like as it's sort of like this stalemate. It's like, well, you make bodies disappear, and like, who can trust you really? And they seem to be getting into this little sort of spat with one another, which is not unusual. Pardo and Gwillian and Omelis have had a triangle of hatred for each other since the beginning. Although Omelis seems to side more often with Pardo than Gwillian, since they're both mentats.
Daphne will cut in as they continue bickering.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just stand up from where she's sitting. This needs to stop. We are, all of us here, House Cheshire. We are all we have. Accusations of treason, of disloyalty to the house, are serious and should not be made lightly.
You are correct, of course, as always, my lady, Grace. I see what Melis says, and he's just like,
You don't have to like each other. But if you want to accuse someone of being disloyal to this house, I will need more solid evidence than I've already been presented.
He nods. He's like, well then, on to business. You kind of have he motions for everybody to have a seat now. Everybody that was getting all, ready for violence or action at the table, he kind of suffuses it, sits down. You allowed Thea entry to the situation, right, Norma?
I said to keep her out with the kids.
Oh, okay, got it. Missed that, sorry. Okay. So you, while you are sitting down, Thea, you bring out the children out into the large courtyard. This is usually the time of the day where they begin their meeting, their exercises and whatnot. And you see, Mossam is just sort of standing by, looking everywhere but where he's supposed to be looking, whereas Belanda is very, focused on task, awaiting instruction. You see, he had arrived fairly early in the morning, so they've already gotten used to some of your instruction on the Highliner ride over here. So they're just sort of awaiting what it is that they want you to do. And as soon as you come up, Mossam was like, "What is it going to be today, teacher? More hand exercises, more combat training, more reading?"
I proceed to get out my Orange Catholic Bible, Teaching Edition, asset on sheet, and the film book, the other asset I have for immersive learning. And then I create a scenario which, to parallel, although I'm not actually aware this is what's going on, is a mock social combat between the two children with set goals for them to practice having an antagonistic interaction without hating each other on the other side of it, because you never know when alliances will shift and you will need to not lose your cool and hate someone that you were fighting. But also, basically, I'm running them through Dune Model UN, but make it on child level stakes.
Okay, that's interesting. You see, Mossam is like, is this what they're doing in there? They're probably gonna rip each other to pieces.
You think that you could do better than them?
If given the chance, maybe. I don't know.
Then let's see how you do. After all, and I'm turning to the girl, we have a very well-trained Bene Gesserit.
You looked at Belanda when you say that?
Yes, I'm doing the parenting flattering thing of this is an appropriate skill level thing. An 8-year-old Bene Gesserit apprentice versus a 12-year-old noble seems to be about like matched for the recreational version of
You see, he maintains his composure when you say that, but you can tell he's like insulted. He's like, her? Really? She hasn't even mastered the voice. She hasn't even begun to master the voice.
Well, why don't you show her how it's done? And I'm going to see if, without damaging the children, I can encourage them to get invested in the game.
Oh, do you have a talent like a bolster or something like that?
Let's see if I can find my sheet because I'm still getting used to this system. Sorry about this.
That's all right.
Let's see. Where did I go? Character sheet, and I have Pranabindhu conditioning, voice, Bene Gesserit, and intense study. So I know a wide quantity of things on a wide range of backgrounds. However, as far as communication, I have a double-barreled focus in teaching and empathy. And this is bang on to my most important drive of duty. Mm-hmm. As well as my faith, a solid foundation is for everyone's good.
Okay. You can roll... sorry.
And of course, my duty, a person is formed by the care of others.
You can roll communication, but use your focus in teaching and link it to duty. When it comes to this particular test, Masum is going to actually attempt to use the voice on Belanda, and she's going to resist. She will likely need some encouragement or some assistance because she is not completely at the same level as Masum has. But she's pretty good despite that. Let's see.
I'm, as a teacher, filing away that Masum genuinely got jealous and has an ego thing and did not understand that that was his ally that he's now fighting. Okay, so I'm not sure how to use Roll20 to roll, so I apologize for this taking a little longer than it should.
That's all right. You can click the little
dice button?
You can, for the skill, and it's going to ask you which drive. Yeah.
How does that work? Click that. Basic rolls.
Yes, if you click on the skill itself, like the little skill, when you highlight it, you can click on that, and then it'll ask you with this little pop-up window which drive you want to link to that skill.
Oh,
so then you click
there we go.
Down, you
which
select
drive
that,
do I want to link it to?
Yeah.
Beauty. Okay. Submit. How many dice? 2 dice?
It's going to roll 2 dice, yeah.
Okay. Using focus? Yes. Submit.
Oh, wow. You're really good.
I better be. I skilled my character to specifically do this better than anything else. This would suck if I didn't.
First roll, and yeah, you knocked it out of the park with 2 successes, so not bad. So yeah, you got 2 successes, and she gets a success as well. So you see he looks at Belanda and concentrates for a moment, and then like the tone of voice changes significantly. You hear him like almost this growling, droning voice coming out of his mouth. He's just like, "Step away," and see like something like that, or he just basically tells her to back off, and you see she's like instantly her eyes open back up, and you see her hands or her feet start trembling and she starts, without thinking, she starts pedaling away, and you sort of like now Belanda, you kind of like clear your throat and like remind her to keep control of, remind her feelings, and she's in control, not him, and so on. And then finally, she kind of like she uses the prana bindu conditioning. She takes a deep breath and sort of internalizes it as everything, and then she closes her eyes for a second, concentrates, and then when she flashes her eyes open back again, she's standing stock still again. And she says, "No, I will not." And you see Masum is just like, she got lucky.
Wouldn't it be better if she was able? Isn't she your ally at the moment?
Not yet, he says.
But
And it looks like for Masum, he's been taught, it seems, that you don't trust anybody right off the track. You have to earn his trust.
Well, goal number 1 is, I was told, make sure that he stays within the Bene Gesserit's orbit, so learning that he can't push Bene Gesserit around is effective to that process. Goal number 2 is there's a difference between trusting someone and knowing someone's your ally. You still have to be nice to people because it's useful and not just fawning.
He seems to understand what you're getting at, but you quickly realize that he's operating from the viewpoint that he never trusted the Bene Gesserit to begin with. And then you realize, like, he's been taught how to control himself, and he knows the voice. Clearly, his mother must have been Bene Gesserit. He must have been taught the ways early on. Then why would he distrust the Bene Gesserit? That's the piece of the story you don't have. It's like, who is this guy's parent, and why does he distrust the Bene Gesserit as much as he does?
My working assumption is that he's been told all sorts of boogeyman stories because she's not blind to human nature. No matter how much the Bene Gesserit think that, like, they're above all this, it's going to be just as much as a slap fight. And that's part of why she's pitching him against Belonda, is she's getting him to acknowledge that Belonda is also, regardless of the excellent conditioning and training, a little girl. And that it's possible the duality can exist in the same person, just like he is a 12-year-old boy on that cusp of, I'm big, but also, sure you are, kid.
Yeah, you got it right on the nose. Yeah, he basically needs a lot more. He's got a lot of trust issues, obviously, and he has a lot to work through. And some of those pieces are not there for you. You got to fit it together to kind of like crack the code that is Masum at the moment. But you figure with enough time, just with any pupil, you spend enough time with him to focus on what he does and how he does things. You can figure him out given some time. You just need to be able to like keep him reined in, so to speak, because he's very rambunctious. He's not rambunctious, but he's very rebellious. That much you get a sense of.
After having done a little bit of the exercise, since there's some clear tension between the children that needs working on, I'd finish the activity with something collaborative where working together and seeing each other's strengths restore them back into a sense of it, because well, he might have really good reasons for not trusting. He still has to not hamper himself by, like, Belonda's got way too much training to let it show that it's possible for this person to bully her. But she's going to remember that, and she's going to trust him less and think less of him because it's clear very much, I have a weakness.
It'll come back up later, for sure.
Yeah, goal is to balance this out a little bit. Since
the
at
levity
some point,
helps.
Yeah,
the levity definitely helps to kind of ease the mood a little bit. And so by the end of the training exercise, they're both sort of get past their own bullshit and they start like cooperating with one another and working together on an activity like in the courtyard. And you're just sitting there watching them go about, and just sort of observing them closely. Excellent. All right. Back very quickly to the rest of the crew here, and at the situation meeting, Omelis opens up with a bit of a bomb drop. Let's see here. Ornithopter production has come to a standstill on Snicker. Our ministers are once again uprising. The difference this time around is that they are armed with military-grade equipment and arms. Within the time span of just a few months, their small protests have grown, and now they have taken over complete control of the manufacturing sectors and are threatening full-scale armed conflict with us over control of such production. In response, our security apparatus was rolled out. As we have done many times before, he looks to Pardo when he says that. They encountered surprising amounts of resistance and were forced to retreat in humiliation. Any attempts at detent have failed thus far. The spokespeople refuse to meet with anyone other than Your Grace, or your mother, he says to Daphne. And your first response, in like your first instinct is to think, oh, this again? These people are, causing problems for us again? How did our secret police fail this time, Usually with this sort of thing, they just target the leadership. When they sort of kneecap the movement, usually your mother would send in or have Lysander organize a squad to slip in, take out their commanders. That's usually how that worked. Usually regime will finds the source of the movement, snuff them out, watch the whole thing implode from the resulting power vacuum. When they're weak like that, that's when Lysander would send in a battalion and crush him, or in this case, it would be Pardo would send in the secret police and crush the movement, make an example of anybody who will follow. And this is as per your mother's orders. But that's what he says. And he's like, usually we would resort to previous strategies, but it seems that this entire fiasco appears as an elaborate trap made to lure you and your family out into the open. Given your recent brush with death, he says, I think it is within our best interest to tread carefully and send someone else in your stead.
Have they-
sorry, go ahead.
Have they issued any sort of demand?
Some of them have, but it seems to be completely ridiculous, the sort of demands that they're making. Means like they do not wish to meet with a representative of any sort. They want to meet with yourself or your mother, and that in and of itself is too much of a security risk. I'm sure you understand. He looks over to Lysander and he says that, like, I'm sure you wouldn't approve of something like this, where we just basically send the heir to the house into a hostile situation where you have armed rebels like calling for your deaths. Like that's probably not a good idea. You see, Gwillian is like, I can always take Her Grace's place, or one of my agents can act as head of house while there. Spring the trap publicly while we have the actual talks taking place elsewhere in secret. If they don't want to negotiate, we take their spokesperson hostage, use the probes if we have to, learn where the rest of their leadership is stationed and take them out, attack their network. Did you want to add something to that, Key?
Use the probes? This probe? The one that's been dismantled? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, the probe that we found in your room, remember?
The heresy.
He rolls his eyes, whatever.
I am quite confident that, Gwillian, you can accomplish everything that you have listed and do it quite well without resorting to heresy.
His plan requires heresy. That was his plan. That was what he mentioned.
You see Omelas nods, like, he holds up his hand like, okay, let's calm down. And he's like, if only it was that simple, my lady. You see, they really have no leadership to target. Every facet of their organization has been converted into independent cells. This has made it a virtual nightmare for our forces to attack their network, as it were. He looks to William when he says that. They are extremely efficient, and it became evident as to why days after their initial takeover. Cross-referencing records dating back decades, I was able to discover that these workers were once part of our own armed forces. They served under Duke Federico and his brother, Archibald. After the demise of one and the imprisonment of the other, many of their loyal troops abandoned their posts and took up residence on Jabberwock's moons. William's political spy was able to discover that many of these veterans are fanatically loyal to the Duke and his brother. He's like, I suspect someone is supporting this movement from behind the curtain, and whoever they are, we must not underestimate them. I don't have to tell you that if we become embroiled in a conflict of this magnitude, we may potentially lose the contract on Arrakis. This could finish us as a house, he says. He looks around.
Well, almost assuredly they're getting their weapons from somewhere. You
Who
say
do you
that,
suspect, Your Grace?
well, we have enemies aplenty. If these are decentralized cells, can they be baited and convinced to turn on each other?
Possibly. And he's like, given the methodology of previous tactics, this seems to be some sort of a plot. Given the type of arms that they were secretly acquired, these insurgents, by the way, they've been receiving assistance for their revolt. Predictions indicate that these are the machinations of another house. Your thoughts immediately go to House Carroll. How do you respond?
I like Gwillian's idea of showing up on the planet, on the moon, to spring the trap. And that will ideally reveal quite a lot about what the powers behind the curtain, so to speak, and what they actually want.
But what if this trap is triggered? If they attack the face dancer and they succeed, they will see we will have shown our hand, would we not? And you see Omelas looks over to Pardo. Mentat computation. What are the likeliest of percentages that we would overplay our hand in such a maneuver, Master Mentat?
I simply must know, when a face dancer dies, do they still have their face or does it fall off?
Oh my. You see Gwillian just kind of stares at you. You've never seen her true form, have you? And he's like, the true face of a face dancer is a blank slate. Like a canvas. It's just a empty shell, no featureless face. Who do you want to roll for, Devin?
To basically try and do what he was asked to do, just on my own.
Ooh, that's not
Distrust
easy.
of him. I know.
Well, Omelas is a mentat himself, and he's like, I could see contingencies going wrong. You can attempt an understand roll and see where he's coming from. If you have focuses like deduction or any of those other focuses that would help, then yeah, you can use those. But you see where Omelas is coming from, and that doing something like that could reveal your biggest hand, which is that you have face dancers at beck and call, that you can sort of impersonate anybody you want. He suspects that the entire purpose of them saying we won't talk to anybody except for Daphne or Adeline is to lure them out to the moon and potentially harm them. That's what he's fearing the most. And if you play a face dancer to that, it's possible that it is a good possibility that they can get killed and reveal that House Cheshire operates with face dancers, which is not something that you probably want to broadcast to everybody in the Imperium.
Could I use just a memory of if there was another time that has happened, what happened that the results thereof?
You would have to look into the military history of House Cheshire to do that.
Okay. I'll just presume bad things then.
Well done, sir. Yeah, you try to think back, and you remember briefly, like, when you were preparing for this this mission of yours with as consort to the Duchess, that in the military history of House Cheshire, there have been the Duke and his brother, the general of the armed forces, came away very well decorated and very because once upon a time House Cheshire was a major house, so they sort of helped make the house what they were. But then after the Duke's demise and the imprisonment of his brother, things sort of started winding down for them, and their star began to fall. Where other houses' stars began to rise instead. Not a coincidence. But in terms of like this sort of situation, yeah, it has repeated itself in historically, especially with the moons, where these groups like taking control, but never to this effect. Never have they been this organized or this well prepared with equipment. So this is a very different. That's why Omelas is having a difficult time trying to computate like what the variables are here, because he doesn't know all of them. He doesn't know who's behind their arming and equipment and organizing. Then that kind of throws a monkey wrench into any sort of predictions he can reliably make. He needs more information. So yeah, he says we could take that tack and send a face dancer in your stead and make it look like we're bringing out Daphne Cheshire or whoever. But we run the risk of that being played. If that is revealed, they won't fall for it a second time. That's for sure.
That's a good point. I suspect that there is little to be gained by asking them to come here and meet somewhere on the planet that's neutral.
No, they're not leaving a snicker. You see, he's like, he breaks it down. He's basically like, they're basically taking control of all the manufacturing sectors on the moon, and they're basically halting production until they're able to meet with one of the heads of the family itself. So either yourself or Adeline would be adequate.
Mm-hmm.
No one else, they say. And a lot of them are, Omelas kind of like throws this line out. He's like, yeah, and a lot of them are not the best of people. Some of them have suggested that the person who murdered your grandfather, the Duke, was some sort of saint, and he was set up, and there was this whole conspiracy. They're insane. And you've heard stories about this in the past. You've never really delved into it too much, or your mother certainly hasn't gone into very much detail about it, because you know that was an instance where she lost her father and her sister in the same day.
We have that doctor who was defected from House Carroll, right?
Yes, you do. He's in the medical wing as you speak.
Has he been questioned or debriefed at all regarding this? Does he know anything about it?
He hasn't told you everything yet,
Mm-hmm.
but he has promised to tell you as much as long as he's able to safely defect, which he has now, to Castle Cheshire. So you can feel free to adjourn the meeting and say, okay, we'll reconvene later. We need more information first. Let's talk to the doctor if you want to go that way.
I think I would, unless anyone wants to interject and suggest something else.
No. You see the doors open up to the meeting room. You see some of the children like are there. Like they kind of step back for a second. They were obviously eavesdropping as much as they could. And Lysander, you catch some of the guards not asleep, but like occupied elsewhere, and you kind of like give them this look like, what are you doing letting these two run around over here? And they immediately get back into position. For those of you who want to accompany Daphne to the medical wing, Dr. Sloan is overseeing the recuperation of the Duchess. And you see, as you walk in, he nods and he tells you, kind of brings you aside and like, she's doing much better now. And he's like, so she's improving considerably, but she's going to have to spend some more time resting, I'm afraid. And he's like, the projectile that hit her straight into the back, close to the spinal cord. It's going to affect her motor functions for some time. If you wanted to talk about what I was indicating back in that ballroom, then I can give you the information that I promised you.
Yes, that is why I'm here, and thank you for taking good care of my mother.
Of course, it's my duty. He brings you into the next room, and he kind of like starts talking at length about the past and how his involvement in House Carroll's plots and machinations. When Duke Federico and Beatrice Cheshire died in that Thopter crash, it was the Duke's wife, Janice, who alleged that their deaths were the result of sabotage engineered by House Carroll. This was, of course, a logical assumption, given the escalation of tensions both houses had known for decades. So it came as a surprise when House Carroll denied involvement in what would have been a legal victory under the forms of Canley. Upon hearing this, the Landsraad High Council dispatched a Dr. Rowan Ballinger, their judge of the change, as an imperially appointed observer. The judge and his team began an investigation into the incident. After countless interviews and inspections, Rowan concluded that House Carroll was not involved in what occurred. Before they could continue, however, Janice Cheshire retracted her allegation and suspended the investigation. House retainers had found irrefutable evidence of the Duke's brother and War Master conducting sabotage on the doomed ornithopter. This, more than anything, sealed the general's fate. Landsraad recalled Dr. Ballinger and their team and left it up to House Cheshire to handle its own affairs. Unsurprisingly, the perpetrator was sentenced to life imprisonment. I know this because a while back I happened upon Rowan at a function, and they confided in me what they knew about the case and their suspicions involving the Duke's brother's conviction. While I know all of those details, I don't know the doctor's reasonings for their suspicions. As for young Alicia Cheshire, she was captured by our agents many years ago and heavily interrogated to produce intelligence regarding your house. Initially, they had me use one medical concoction or another to try and pry the information from her. I drew the line at helping to prepare for her torture, however. Make no mistake, the Baron and his lady still blame the poisoning of their daughter on the Duke and his family. This was why the former Duchess was certain that the deaths of her Duke and daughter were retaliation for a crime that was left unpunished. They will not rest until they feel you and your family have paid the price. Norma, are you present for this meeting with the doctor?
Yes.
Roll discipline. This is just observation. Daphne, you could roll the same as well. This is just a minor detail.
So would espionage count for focus? Since it's detail-oriented?
He's not a spy. But yeah, I mean, sure, you could roll that. If you have observe, that would be the ideal one to have. You're making an observation. Just of something, the way that
so
he's
I'll just
talking.
Roll it as is. 2 successes.
That's pretty good.
I got 3 successes.
I got B.
Woo! Oh, okay. When he says, you both get more or less the same information, but Daphne, you get a little bit more, judging by his body language. He mentioned a Dr. Rowan Ballinger, and simultaneously as a judge of the change and as a doctor, and later when he was talking, he referred to instead of saying doctor or Dr. Ballinger, he referred to them by their first name, Rowan, which, judging by the relaxed way that he's speaking to you, seems to indicate that not only does he know this person, but they're intimate, like they're on first name basis. And instead of regarding their credentials, he regarded them using their first name. So obviously, whoever this Rowan person is and Dr. Sloan go way back, potentially to the Suk Doctor School.
All right.
He's like,
so
he did. Oh, sorry. There was one last point. He did mention earlier before this that one of the things that they were seeking to do involved that Ixian probe and reverse engineering it, from what he can tell, but he doesn't know the details and what exactly that would entail. You know. Go ahead. Is there anything specific that you wanted to bring up?
all right, so I just want to make sure that I have this correct. Is that so my grandfather was in the ornithopter crash?
Yes, so the Duke of House Cheshire is known as Federico, and he died in an ornithopter accident along with one of his daughters, Beatrice. That is your mother's sister, your aunt. So your aunt and your grandfather both died in an ornithopter accident.
All right.
But later it was revealed that the Duke's brother was responsible for sabotaging the thopter.
Okay, and he was imprisoned.
Correct. On Jabberwock.
Is he still alive?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
And on that note, we'll switch over to Jared. All right. So, sorry, wrong music choice. The garden is located along the equator of Jabberwock, called thus due to it being a lush and expansive complex situated at the heart of a long and sprawling jungle landscape. It is an ironic choice to give to a prison. With nothing but dense jungle beyond its walls, the area is brimming with dangerous flora, fauna, and of course, the infamous Jabberwockian jungle cats for which your house was named after. This facility has been your home for over 10 years. Not a traditional prison, the garden affords its inmates a decent but often sequestered life inside their quarters. At first blush, life there doesn't appear to be harsh. With ample lodging and amenities, it resembled an eccentric hotel rather than a prison. All this changed the moment the lights shut off every night at the same time and the doors locked themselves. Brought here for an unbelievable crime you did not commit, you have served much of your sentence with quiet introspection and humility. This was aided in part to the assistance you received from some of the prisoners and prison staff alike. After your brother's untimely demise, House Cheshire lost much of its prosperity, with many of the armed companies being dissolved and with many abandoning their posts after what occurred with your sentencing. Some of them took to new starry careers. One of these disillusioned captains is named Dominic Gorman. A captain once under your personal command, he has been key to your ability to adjust to this new environment. On more than one occasion, he has protected you from those who would have cut your life short, on or outside the grounds. After all, not everyone was a fan of House Cheshire's policies and secret police tactics. And even in a place like the garden, there are hierarchies of power and factions that vie for a piece of that power. Day in and day out, you have paid the price and ventured out beyond the walls of the garden, with the others into the jungle thicket to harvest the local exotic plants under an unforgiving sun. Despite the ever-present watch of the guard, few have dared to make an escape. If poisonous plants and insects are not enough of a threat, then certainly the dangerous cats or the occasional Jabberwocky would certainly spell the end of anyone brazen enough to try. With escape from the garden a near impossibility, it was strange then when someone attempted to break into the facility. They came at night. Gorman fought bravely and even downed 2 of his assailants before he was struck down by some poison projectile or another. You saw him last lying in a pool of his own blood when the intruders used his hand to bypass the palm lock on your room's door. Unprepared for the intrusion and the surprising amount of assailants, you were quickly overwhelmed. Because they wore masks and came in the dead of night, it was impossible to tell just who these intruders were. Judging by their actions, however, they were not interested in killing you. No, they wanted something else. After a brief thrashing, one lithe shadow emerged to stand before you. They wore a Sibus hood, an Ixian device that both conceals the user's face and modulates their voice. Greetings, General. I bring you good news. We are not here to kill you. Luckily for you, what you know is more important than your life, which is why you are going to tell us the whereabouts of House Cheshire's most treasured weapons. We want locations, codes, everything. And you're going to give us this information, even if it kills you. And it very well may. The less you resist, the less chance there is that you die an excruciating, painful death. At this point, another shadow emerges next to the hooded one, a woman with piercing eyes and some sort of contraption. Okay, Jared.
Okay.
First roll of the evening for you.
Okay.
They bring out this thing that looks like a hood with electrodes attached to it, and they start applying it on your head while the rest of these assailants basically manhandle you, grab your arms, and keep your arms behind your back. Part of you wants to find out what this is all about and let it sort of play out, but one second. Your assets as such are to be returned to you upon your release eventually, but one asset that you sort of retain is this very, very secret asset that you have kept successfully under your hat this whole time, which is funny because how would they know about what you have stored inside of your head? They attach the probes leads to the sides of, and the front lobal part of your head. You know what this is, and you know what they're going to do to get it from you. Unless, of course, you would be so bold as to betray your house and give them the information without giving up a fight. How do you proceed?
Okay. Why would I tell you? Because the thing is, if I told you now, I'm no longer useful to you anymore. So tell me that right now. If I tell you, you're just going to kill me anyways.
I was banking on your personal feelings towards your house. They
Oh yeah, and this is good for my
here.
house. How? Giving some random stranger some information that I possess?
This isn't good for your house. That's the point.
Then why'd you... Okay.
In other
Sounds
words,
like you don't know what you want.
Oh, they know exactly what they want. And they know that you know. They're like, the House Atomics General, where are they?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
You're lying.
Why
You
would I
see,
lie?
she looks over. They look over. The hooded one looks over to the woman with the piercing eyes, and you see she takes this thing that is handheld, and she just sort of turns a dial, and all of a sudden, all your neurons fire up at once. Give me a discipline check, please. And you need to decide what your drive is in this particular situation because it won't change. Either you're trying to prevent the truth to be known, in which case you select truth, or if you still maintain some sliver of fealty to House Cheshire and everyone within it, then perhaps you would look to something like duty or faith in protecting the house and their secrets from getting out. Of course, the more
what
you
was that
resist,
first
the closer
one?
you may be to death. What's that?
What was the first one?
Truth. They're trying to get the truth out of you, so you can select
that's
truth
100%
as a sort of like to suppress it. Okay, so then you would pair your discipline to your truth. You get your target number. You click on the discipline skill, and it'll ask you what your drive is. You select truth, and you go from there. Now, if you wanted to, if you have talents that allow for it, you can potentially roll extra dice, or if you wanted to give your wonderful game master some threat, I can give you some additional dice as currently you don't have any momentum.
We'll see how this plays out.
Okay, go ahead and
right.
Roll. Let me know what you get.
Let me check. Does it go for assets and talents?
None of your assets are available currently because you're in prison. But your talents do apply. So if your talents have something like, I can re-roll a discipline check die or something, then sure, by all means.
In which I do have ransack.
That's I believe that's for searching. Like if you're
you're right. That's an understand test. Yeah. I just read it.
Okay. So like if you send a troop into a building to like search for something, you would roll that.
I'm just making it. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't have anything.
Okay, go ahead and roll discipline then. Let me know what you get.
How many dice? Is it just 2?
Well, yeah. So on your character sheet, you're going to click discipline, and then it's going to ask you which drive. You click the drop down and you select truth, hit submit, and it'll populate on the chat window for Roll20.
It gave me a third window saying how many dice.
How many? 2.
2? Okay.
Yeah.
Using focus? No.
Unless if you have something like torture or endurance or something like that under discipline, then that applies. Otherwise, no.
Let me check. I don't think I do though.
Okay.
No. But I do have observe. Can I observe who these people are, or?
No, they brought Ixian technology specifically to keep anyone from doing that.
Ooh, these guys
very cautious, which is very interesting that they would do that. Mostly just the one who's interrogating you. The other people don't care if you see their faces, which is kind of a curious detail. You got 2 successes?
Yep.
Oh, good. You see, this is the opposite of what a torture session is, because you see, if you succeed, it gets worse. So congratulations, it's going to get worse now. So at first, you get 2 successes. Congratulations. You get 1 momentum for that, because they're starting off real low. The electrodes fire up, and you're like, you feel like your head is on fire. It's minor discomfort and pain in the head, but a few memories of recent times are exposed, and you see the woman who's holding the dial looks at another device nearby, and you could literally see your memories popping up in a holographic fashion. And you see the one with the Sibius hood looks over and goes, remember harder, perhaps. And you see she starts turning the dial, the one with the piercing eyes, and you start feeling that pain just start rattling the frontal lobe of your head. Go ahead and roll discipline again.
Nope.
This time you have 1 momentum that you can spend to get an additional die. So when you click on discipline, it asks you how many dice. You can roll 3 if you wanted to.
Okay. So it's going to be discipline, duty, truth, submit. I'm going to use my momentum. No focus.
Excellent. Okay. Move that momentum out, and you roll
2
3
successes.
dice. 2 successes and a complication. Oh my. Okay. So now the pain is in your body. It goes from your head and it goes all the way down into your bodies. All of a sudden, your memories from a few back emerge on the device nearby. You start getting, and you see that they start like ramping it back up. Let's see. So you passed 2. Now you're in difficulty 3 mode. Okay. Go ahead and roll another one.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, hope.
As a complication, you're going to lose some of those memories. What's that one memory that you just forgot?
All right. Do you want me to roll it one more time, or?
Yeah, go ahead and roll. And just
Okay.
if you could think of a memory that Archibald would forget as this is taking place, go ahead and let me know, or when you get a chance. Doesn't have to be right now.
I do have one, but we can let the scene go first, and then I'll tell you.
Sure.
Oh wait, this is only 2. No.
2 this time.
2
2
successes.
successes. Oh no, that's not good. So now you feel this deeply uncomfortable pain throughout your body, but this time you failed, so that's good. You feel this incredible pain throughout your body, and more memories from way back when start to reemerge, cusping on the time when your brother was murdered. And you see, as they're observing it, they start seeing like different bits and pieces of what they want, and they're like, "There, keep it there." Now roll one last discipline check, Jared.
Nope. I feel like I am not winning this, and it's.
I'd be surprised if you aced it, because it just keeps going higher. The danger keeps mounting the more you succeed. So, just 2 successes. You failed again. Okay, so that's 3 now. So you see, like, they start delving into like the more painful portions of your past. The pain is unbearable, and all of a sudden it's like a flood comes out of your brain, and all the deep dark secrets, all the revelations that you didn't actually kill your brother start stemming forth. And you see the one with the Sibius hoods just kind of stands there, and you see the woman with the piercing eyes, like, "Commander, what should we do?" looking to them. And you see for a second they kind of get out of the stupor, and they're like, "That's sufficient for now." And you see they hold up a hand and they dial it back down. And when they do that, it's like all your nerves are firing off at once, and you just feel this intense flood of sweat just douse your body. And you just like fall onto the ground, like all your muscles are twitching uncontrollably, like you've just been tased with like 1,000 volts, and your brain is just firing off, and you can't even think straight right now. And you see, "That'll be enough." You see the one with the Sibius hood says, "We're done here. Thank you for the information, General. We'll make sure that House Cheshire's Atomics finds a suitable new home." And with that, they turn and leave. And that's.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Finish your thought.
There's not really much.
What was your? Yeah, you're just like, by the time they're long gone, that's when you start getting some responses back in your nerve endings. You can flex your fingers and move your hands and stuff, and then like but at this point, it's like all of a sudden how the guards are aware of what's happening, whereas everything else that was happening before was like super quiet. They didn't realize what was going on. They all rush in, they check you over. The local sook doctor checks you out, and it's like, "Oh my God, get him to the medical wing right away." And they start prepping you for not surgery, but like they start injecting you full of stuff, and everything sort of like blurs into a background as you realize you've just been interrogated inside the garden. What was the one memory that you lost, that you forgot?
So there's this one memory that he forgot. Thing is he did find some evidence that may or not be destroyed of his innocence.
Oh
He
no, and
forgot
you just
whatever.
forgot it? Oh shit. Wow. Okay. Excellent. Well, that's as good a time as any. I think we're gonna go ahead and take our break now, and when we come back, we shall return with the entourage. What happens next with Uncle Jared? We shall return. It is now 9:45 Eastern Standard Time. We shall return at 9:55 Eastern Standard Time. right, and we have returned from break. We had just learned that our illustrious general, our former general of House Cheshire, was imprisoned in the garden, and he was recently interrogated. And the information, the valuable information of House Cheshire's atomics was divulged through the use of an Ixian probe device. It revealed the deepest, darkest secret of said general. And now we swivel back to our entourage back on Castle Cheshire, whereas because the events that just took place on the garden happened several months ago. Now we return to the current time, as after Dr. Sloan had finished briefing Norma, or anybody else for that matter, who was in the room and was privy to the conversation that he was having with Daphne regarding House Cheshire's history regarding the Duke and his brother, and the whereabouts of Daphne's sister Alicia. So we'll pick it back up with you all. You have sort of adjourned that meeting that you had earlier. So you didn't really finish the strategy meeting, so to speak. You just sort of put a pause on it and then went to go check on Adeline and heard what Dr. Sloan had to say. And with that, he was called back into the room because the Duchess had a question for him. So they're talking now. You can kind of talk amongst yourselves and decide what it is that you want to do as a group. Those of you in the room with the doctor, how do you proceed?
Did Dr. Belanger, did he have any insight into the incident? Anything that was never made public?
Dr. Ballinger was not afforded the opportunity to investigate House Cheshire's side of things. By the time he finished his investigation on the House Carroll side, they had already uncovered the culprit behind the sabotage. In this case, it was Archibald, the Duke's brother, that had committed the crime. And they apparently had caught him on tape, on recorded holo, as having sabotaged the ornithopter. It was an open and shut case from the perspective of the Landsraad. Mm-hmm. Not something that, because it happened outside of Canley, they basically left it for House Cheshire to handle their own business.
And what was House Carroll's attitude towards this whole incident, the accusation and the revelation?
They adamantly denied it, which is a bit strange if you ask me. If they had indeed done it, I would imagine under the rules of Canley it would have been legal. They gained nothing by denying that they committed such an atrocity in the eyes of anyone else. This was business as usual when it comes to the rules of Canley. Mm-hmm. He did touch on something too earlier when he said that the Baron and his wife, his consort, the lady, were the ones that were targeted at some point, or it seems that their daughter was killed or poisoned by somebody, and that was never resolved, and they blamed House Cheshire for it. But so at the time,
the Baron is House Carroll.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me. Sorry, not the Baron. I said the Baron. I'm very sorry. I mean the Count and the Countess. Let me just clarify some of this information right now because there's a lot of names and a lot of characters. Let's see. So we have Count Tyros Carroll and Countess Regina Carroll. I'll show you what they look like. Here's the Countess Regina. Many, many years after realizing that her daughter was poisoned. And here's the Count Tyros Carroll. These are your enemies, for lack of a better term. These are the ones that you've been in vendetta with for over a decade, for a very long time.
And so Regina suspects that Cheshire had her daughter poisoned?
As does the Count, yes. And that's what Dr. Sloan alludes to when he's talking about the initial investigation, like the history of the inter-house rivalry, as it were.
Okay. And so, did the daughter die before the Duke's ornithopter crash?
The daughter died. Yes. that's why Janice, the Duke's wife, immediately thought that it was House Carroll, because they were on this thing where they had killed their daughter, which they adamantly denied.
And did we poison the daughter? These are questions.
That's an excellent question, isn't it?
I will ask my mother if she knows if we actually were responsible for her death.
All right, do you want to ask her like in front of everybody else, or do you want to have this like be a private talk specifically with her?
I'll make a note to ask her privately later if we actually were responsible.
Okay. The only other person that might know is Omelis, who is like ancient. He's like 300 years old or whatever. He's been with the family of House Cheshire for generations. If anyone would know,
would I not have asked the lady at some point in time? I mean, I would presume that I would want to ask her to be honest with me.
And to what extent you can tell, yeah, she has been nothing but honest with you.
No, but
which
I'm
is
saying I presume
something.
She would tell me if they were involved or not. Honestly,
that all happened at a time when Adeline was very young. Like this happened like over 10 years ago, like 20 years ago now. So she was a young kid when her sister died in the helicopter crash with her father. And what you do know is some of the more intimate details regarding Janice Cheshire, the mother, who essentially died of a broken heart. She threw herself off the battlements because she couldn't handle it anymore.
Okay.
She doesn't share that very lightly with most people. But about the only other person who knows is Omelis and Daphne. So after some time, you see Dr. Sloan comes back out, and you see the Duchess is okay she's sort of sitting on a suspensor chair. So they kind of like bring her out, and she's just hovering over the ground. It's like a futuristic wheelchair from the wheels.
I have one more question for the doctor, and that is if he is aware of plans to arm I don't want to arm militias against House Cheshire.
I'm afraid that information is beyond me, he says. Like this is information that was like planned in like a strategic fashion. The Soup Doctor would have nothing to do with that.
All right, I didn't think he would, but maybe he overheard something. Yeah.
He knows that they were making motions, like they were preparing for something big, but he wasn't privy as to what it was. But it did involve your sister and those probes that they got from Ix.
And where is my sister now?
Back on Neush, as far as I know, unless they moved her elsewhere. That's where they've been interrogating her, and keeping her captive.
All right. Where is she?
The planet is Neush, spelled Niushe.
And that's the Carroll homeworld?
That is correct. You can roll understand, and if you have like planetary systems as a focus, you can include that. There is something to that location. You can roll it if you wish. If you get more than one success, you'll get something out of that, a little tidbit.
Would I be able to roll that using other roll memory?
Yes, you can. You can use other memory, and that's something I didn't have an opportunity to follow up on. But yeah, everywhere you go now, it's like you're a completely different person, and now you're getting like these whispers, these little conversations that happen only inside of your head, with these other personas that exist from your past, ancestral memory.
Would a focus on house politics apply?
Yes.
2 2s. Oh wait, no, that's 4
Hey.
successes. I rolled a 3 and
Oh.
a 4.
Wow. Okay. Give yourself 2 momentum. If I put you on that page, yes. Okay. As you get some pretty interesting information. So it seems like that planet is actually in the same system as Grumman and Yamant. Grumman stands out to you in particular because it is the homeworld of, drumroll, House Moritani.
Oh, Jesus.
They're all within very close proximity to each other. And they all have an iron in the fire for House Cheshire. Oh, that rhymed. So you have this talk with the doctor, and eventually the Duchess gets brought out on a suspensor chair. She's now that she has some like meds in her system, she's a little bit more able to clearly think beyond the pain and such. They bring her out into the situation room, and she asks to get a status report from one of you, whichever one of you wants to give her information about what happened.
Yeah, I'll fill her in.
As all of you sort of reconvene back into the chamber, you see the Duchess is like, "Where's the other one? The other Bene Gesserit we saw? And Massam, where is he?
I believe they are in the courtyard.
Bring them here."
I will dispatch a servant to go collect the Bene Gesserit and Massam.
Okay.
I am
So everybody-
duly selected.
Yeah, you see everybody gets
I'm not
brought
gonna go
in.
myself. I got people for that.
Yeah, hey you, snap to it. When you all come back in, you see Adeline sits up and looks at Massam. She didn't get a chance to suitably say goodbye to him the last time he was sent off to Wallach, so she bids him to stand forth, and he kind of comes up with Belladonna standing. Belladonna, now you got me saying it. Belanda staying behind, and you see he kind of approaches, and it's like, "Your Grace." And it's like, "Please, we're all family here." Says, and she bids him to stand at her side, and you see like she just kind of conversates with him a little bit, like one-on-one. Anybody who's hyper aware or within good proximity would probably get a glimpse of like what they're saying, but it's basically just her just making small talk with him, like, "How was your flight? Are you okay? Like, what's going on?" And she's like, "We're going to conduct business in here." And he's like, "If you feel like you can be a sufficient enough adult, you can stay. Otherwise, you should be out there with the other children." And he looks to Thea, and almost as if like, "Well, I'm on her leash now, so she gets to decide, not me." But he basically relays that to you, Thea. She's like, "My step-parent is saying we can stay."
It doesn't particularly shock me in reaction, and I'm going where the kiddos are going.
Okay.
I come with his package deal.
You see Massam looks down at Belanda, like, "Are you going to behave?" And she looks up at him and says, "That depends on your definition of behavior." You see, he's like,
Standing behind them, so they probably don't see the smile at the little interplay.
You see, Adeline addresses everybody in the room. It's like, "We have much to discuss. Omelas and Daphne have filled me in on what is occurring here. We have a situation we need to address immediately. It has been brought to my attention that our security has been breached in more ways than one." She's like, the issue with Snicker, we need to address immediately. We need to have someone that they can trust, that they can meet with, so we can diffuse the situation. We don't want it to spiral out of control. She looks to Omelas and Lysander and Pardo. I need the three of you to work together very closely and ensure that this doesn't get worse. And it's like this, what we have on Snicker right now is a powder keg and it's getting ready to explode. We need to find somebody who they're willing to deal with, and not try to eliminate out of hand. I suspect, based on Omelas' assumptions, that if I or my daughter were to meet with them, there is a chance, a very high probability, that someone would make a play for our lives. We need someone that they can meet with that won't cause such a reaction. It's like, does anybody know who exactly we can turn to for this sort of assistance? I need Key to roll discipline again. No reason.
Daphne is going through her mental Rolodex, trying to think if there is anyone we can send, because her inclination is to send Norma and Gwillian.
There used to be a pretty good propaganda corps that the Duke used to have. Long, not necessarily disbanded, but there's no names that stand out as outstanding that could just be sent in your stead or anybody in place of any other good communicator. He figured a good enough entourage, though, to meet with these insurgents would be good to handle such an issue like that. What did you get, Key, out of curiosity?
Miraculous 3 successes.
Okay, I'm just checking right now.
No particular reason. Yeah.
So, I think Daphne's first inclination is to send Gwillian to Snicker, not as her, but just to infiltrate and get a handle on the situation. Basically, eyes on the ground, boots on the ground. Because Daphne's pretty sure she's going to end up on Snicker at some point, but wants to have as much information as possible before that.
Excellent. Just waiting on our result on a roll here. Sorry.
I'm just taking in other people's family dynamics. Well,
Cool.
Quietly reading it and filing away notes for later. Complete lack of any sort of moral judgment, but a lot of practical. And this wasn't done properly, and there's clearly some trust issues, and that's a problem here. And someone did not get hugged enough as a child. To do.
Excellent. Yeah, you got one bad thing there. Not speaking to you, Panda. Okay, so you all pile into this room and you're kind of weighing your options. The mention of boots on the ground kind of like runs the Duchess the wrong way, and she's like, that might, and actually more Omelas than anybody else, actually. He's like, putting troops on the ground might instigate a fight. And we need to be very careful how we put together this delegation.
I misspoke. What I meant to say was eyes and ears.
And he looks to Gwillian when you say that. It's like, I think I understand your implication here. And you see Gwillian's like, I can send my spies. It's not a problem. Question is, how deep do you want them to go?
I trust your judgment. As deep as they safely can, while still getting the information we need to operate.
So you're making all these preparations, like, okay, Gwillian's going to send his spies in, and he's going to gather some information and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, this little light comes on at the end of the table. You see it's the guard, and they're alerting, they're calling for the Duchess and Omelis to pick up and respond. And you see Omelis is like, one moment, and he kind of steps out of the room for a second. Second. Okay. And for a second, like, yeah, everything's calmed down with the whole Pardo issue. Like, you see the Duchess is like, it's fine. We're going to, you all need to coordinate together. We're going to implement a plan on Snicker to try to get this, situation diffused and such. And then Omelis comes back in and whispers in the Duchess's ear. And she kind of turns to him and it's like, "Are you sure?" He nods. And he's like, How should we proceed, your lady, your grace?" And he she kind of looks over to Lysander and beckons him to come forward.
He will do so.
He communicates something to you with the art of your house's secret language. 1 second.
Uh-oh.
And then she kind of calmly looks away. Key, I need you to make a observation roll, please.
Observation.
Yes.
For those at home, how does one make an observation roll? Dune.
Discipline. As observation is a focus of discipline. So you'd be basically rolling discipline plus whatever drive makes sense for your character.
Alrighty then. Okay. That is 2 successes.
2. Okay.
That is the most important.
The tension has returned to the room, Master Mentat. And the Duchess is very clearly not looking at you. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to make a move roll, Key, and Lysander, do the same.
Oh, things froze.
Uh-oh. Oh no! Who froze?
Looks like Panda froze.
Oh no.
Oh, the worst possible.
Curses. What'd you roll?
I got 1 success.
Oh, Panda's back.
Hey, welcome back.
So,
The internet's.
I rolled a 20 and I rolled 1.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's a complication. Would you like to buy that complication off of me, or would you like to see what happens when you roll with it?
How many threat do you have now?
Oh, not much, like 9 or 10 or something.
Fuck it. Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
I rarely-
Panda.
I rarely do it, so I'm gonna do it this time.
All right, so you get threat in the form of 2, but now you see what happens is you move up behind Pardo, and Pardo, you sense the tension is thick as ever now, and you sense a presence behind you, so you ready yourself for violence. But before you could react, like, you grab the bodkin inside the lining of the coat, and you bring it out to try to, like, get a hold of whoever's behind you, but they're much quicker, and the blade comes right up to your neck like this. And you realize that blade is attached to the hand, which is attached to Lysander. And you see the Duchess then looks with these piercing eyes at you, Pardo. And he's like, if you are Pardo, then who comes knocking on Castle Cheshire's doors at this hour?
Who does?
You see, she looks over to Norma and gives you a nod.
What is this? Pardo drops the bodkin. You're all face dancers. All of you. I should have known.
Everybody's a face dancer here. Yeah, sure.
I walked right into a trap.
If I was a face dancer, Pardo, do you think I'd be wearing this one?
To pretend to be Lysander? Yes. I would. What kind of a question is that?
Normal.
You can almost hear his eyes roll.
Your complication is coming into effect now. With the heightened state of everything that's going on, it's a little harder to read, even at this close, whether the marshal is who you suspect it is or not. But go ahead and roll a discipline check. Observation.
Am I just watching all this?
Yeah, everybody's like, whoa. You see the...
Okay, then my first behavior if things had become combat related is I am putting my body between the children and any shit that might go down. Human shield time.
Excellent.
All right.
Yeah. You see the Duchess motions and William and some of his people like surround you and the children in the semicircle, and you see Omelis kind of stands up in objection. He's like, hold on now. Back off, he says to William.
3 successes.
3. Ooh, okay. Yeah, one last discipline check, Key. This one's critical.
Yeah. Ooh. That is 3 successes.
Ooh, matched. Now, the way combat...
Can I blow a determination point to make mine 4 now?
Does your drive have a statement?
Yes.
Ah,
Truth is the first
okay,
casualty of war.
Okay, very well then. Yes, you can. You can go ahead and blow a determination that gives you an instant 2 successes. So what would that drive it to be exactly?
5.
Yep. You get 2 momentum. If you already had 2 momentum, now you have 4.
Now I'm going to use my...
Oh, momentum is a group thing, right?
Yes.
Yes, we have 4 momentum.
Excellent.
And now I get to use one of my talents and roll a d20, and hopefully I can get... Nope, I don't get my determination
roll under?
point back. No,
Okay, you don't get it this
back.
time, but yeah, you just like hyper focus on him, and you're just like face dancer. And you see the Duchess looks over to
him.
Yeah, she looks over to everybody. Sort of stands up, except for the Duchess, of course. And she looks over. She leans in on her chair, and she looks hard at Pardo. It's like, reveal yourself, creature.
Reveal myself. What is this?
Just then, you hear booted feet coming down the hallway, and the doors open, and you see there's a contingent of troops there. With Mala pistols and rifles at the ready, shield belts and blades at the bristling. They bring in the curtain of troops walk into the room, and then they part, and to reveal a singular figure that is familiar to all of you, Pardo Reed. Entree.
I'm gonna guess, given Masim's nature, he's probably peeking over the Bene Gesserit human shield.
Yeah, probably.
Daphne will glance over to where Thea is protecting the children and just sort of give a small approving nod.
Yeah, you see
One
the
job.
troops then reconverge on Thea and the children and just sort of create a cordon of troops.
Well, this is exciting.
Look at him. He's clearly the face dancer.
He's clearly you.
Lysander will tighten the blade to the captured Pardo's neck.
Is Gwillian in the room?
Yes.
Daphne will turn to him and ask, so how is this question normally resolved?
How is what question? Oh, who's his face answer? Who's not?
One of them is clearly an imposter.
Perhaps we should see how they bleed.
Gwillian nods, like, yeah, that's one way to find out. The other way is to ask one of them a question only the real Pardo would know. Sensitive information, perhaps. An old secret.
I ask the children if they know if someone impersonating a Mentat can use their amazing abilities. Because this is a learning experience for them, and I genuinely don't know out of character.
I believe that there's actually somebody here under your care, actually, Thea, who may know the answer to this question without any bloodshed whatsoever. And that would be Masum. Because originally when he was sent off to Wallach Ix, everybody gave him something to remember them by and to help protect them. And Pardo was no different in that. So you see, Masum steps forward and is like, I think I will know who the Mentat really is, who produces something that only Pardo, the real Pardo, gave him. But he doesn't hold it aloft. He hides it behind his back. And he walks up to each one of you and asks the simple question: what did you give me before I departed for Chapter House? He begins with Pardo with the blade to his neck.
He is so proud.
Oh, goodness.
I love having the notes for this.
If you took notes, congratulations.
Personally, I'm confused as to which one is the real Pardo. So
Oh, shit. It just got meta. Okay. So
it got meta for a second.
The face dancer. Excellent.
The Pardo who's the imposter. Would say.
What shall it be, Master Mentat? What did you give me?
This Mentat sweats.
He goes to the next one. Master Reed, do you remember what you imparted on me before my departure?
I told you I hoped your mother would be okay. Maybe not those exact words.
He turns around and he brings out his hand to reveal nothing. The Mentat wished me good wishes. That is not Pardo Reed. And he points to the face dancer with the blade to his throat. Whose creature are you? You hear the Duchess yell. What did the Talaxu want here? Answer me, or my people will pry the answers from you violently.
Pardo, with the blade to his neck, begins looking around the room and then reaches down to grab the bodkin very rapidly.
Oh no.
Slice! Pounce on protecting must seem, though I'm very bad at it because I'm crippled, but full bodyguard mode.
Okay.
If necessary, I happen to be carrying my own personal shield and might simply use as necessary.
Excellent.
But whatever happens, no one is stabbing the children.
I would also try and intervene by taking out my sugar wire garrote and basically wrapping it around the arm with the knife or with the blade.
Oh my.
I would like slice and dice.
Slice and dice. Excellent. Yeah. All right. Well, we should probably go in order of move scores, just because that seems to make the most sense. So, what's your move
next
score? Pardo Reed, with the blade to his neck.
Pardo Reed has a move of 6.
Haha. Okay. I think Lysander also has a move of 6, which means
yes, indeed,
probably be a contest of move stats or what have you.
You also have a move 6.
Oh my! Yeah, that's right. So there's gonna be a lot of moving around. You move down to reach down and grab the bodkin. Who's your target? Who's your immediate target?
Target is me.
Oh my!
Yep.
So then it is a move roll for you, Pardo, and it is a battle for you, Lysander, because he's obviously trying to use the bodkin. You don't know for what reason. You don't know who he's trying to hurt, but he's moving very quickly. So you're trying to put your technique at play and see if you're able to. I'm assuming your intent is to just literally disarm him. That's your thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to try to accurately slice and dice his arm, and he's going to try to take himself out. So both of you roll respectively, move and battle. Let me know what the successes are.
Can I use my long blades focus?
You can.
Excellent.
Can I use body control focus?
Yes, absolutely.
Rude. Oh, no, don't like that. Nope.
Oh.
Nope.
You'd have to jump over the table, but yes, Devin, you can use that.
There's no context. You can jump
Lysander
over
happens
the
to
table.
lose.
That's fine.
If Lysander happens to lose, you definitely catch him. Given a good roll.
Can
4 successes.
Determination.
Oh, wow! What'd you get, Lysander? Not so much.
Yeah.
Oh, so you actually get hurt in the process because he brings up the bodkin so fast. He actually slices your arm, and you're like, ah! I mean, you swing too slowly. You dig right into the chair where he's on as he rolls out, and then he goes to stab himself. Norma, you are the only one here. Let me get a move roll. See if you can intercept.
Would I be able to count this as
And you
stealthy?
If you make a successful move check, perhaps. You need to. You also have momentum. Don't forget, you have like 4 momentum sitting in your pool right now.
Oh yeah. We didn't move some of them. Okay.
You can buy up to 2 additional dice, if you wanted to include them in your roll.
If he got 4 successes and I can't use any form of stealth, then I don't have a focus, which means I really can't beat him.
You're basically trying to catch him unawares, which you can do, but you'd have to at some point vault over the table and wrap the Shiga wire around his arm.
Okay, so this one's just the move roll to get over the table then. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
and then it would be a battle versus his move.
Okay. Oh, that's a terrible
That's a
roll.
negatory, my friend. Oh no.
I slip on the table.
Yeah, you vault and you try to get there, and you when you arrive on the other side, your hands open up like this, and you see the Shiga wire come out, but it's already too late. And the face dancer reveals himself when he drives the bodkin into his chest and just kind of twists, falls forward, and his face starts to change. And he looks exactly like William described, just like a faceless mass, the barest of details for eyes and ears and mouths, just a blank slate. You see, William was ready to had already pulled out his needler gun and was training it on him, and then when he killed himself, he's just like that. Okay, puts it away. Now that the violence has ended, how does the real Pardo Reed react? Massam is right in front of you, and you saw this whole thing go down.
I imagine the real Pardo Reed has a splatter of blood, just a small speck on his cheek. He just passively takes out a handkerchief, wipes it off, looks at Massam and says, "That was some good thinking you did there."
And smiles. You see, now you stand before your entourage, but you don't remember some of these faces, and you don't remember what has occurred over the past 6 to 8 months. So you're completely lost as to what's happening in this room right now. How do you proceed?
Look at the face dancer corpse. And look at everyone else. I'm assuming it's very clear that they already know face dancers are an issue now. And they're assuming I'm not one, and I can assume they're not face dancers because they just killed a face dancer. Yeah. All the gears turning in this Mentat's head, just as he passively sweeps across the room. Now, I have been gone for quite a while. Could you please bring me back up to speed on what's happened these past couple of months?
Yes, but before that, Omelis and Gwillian, I owe you an apology. You brought valid concerns and I should have listened.
No need to apologize, my lady.
When exactly was the last thing you remember to bring you up to speed?
That was probably Gamont. Like after Gamont, everything's kind of a blur.
Gamont.
We have much to discuss then. Welcome back, Pardo. And you see Adeline motions to the troops that are surrounding Massam and Alonda and Thea, and they kind of come out and some of them take the body away from the table, and a servant comes in and starts wiping down the blood and stuff like that. Just trying to freshen up, and she's like, I will want to take an official recess until we get this room back in order, but we have to make a move soon. I will meet with me back in the war room, she says. You remember this room, Daphne? This is the one room that was sort of like secret to everybody else. A lot. It was you literally found her in the war room after finding a secret passage in her bedroom. So she seems to be indicating that she's going back there for, and this is usually where she goes with Omelis only to plan out, specific house actions. But now she's bringing the rest of you into the war room to plan like these major moves as a house. While the room gets cleaned up, she does ask that the children be excluded from this meeting. Although she does tell Norma that if you trust Thea enough, she saw how she moved to protect the children. That was her first instinct, and anybody who's willing to protect Massam to that extent is, by any account, trustworthy for anybody else. So she's like, if I trust her, if you trust her as well, you can include her in our house meetings, our house briefings.
As you wish, my lady.
Unless any of you want to do anything else before you get to the war room, we can skip right to it. Did anybody want to do anything in particular after this, after everything has just occurred in the situation room?
On the way into the war room, Daphne will buttonhole Thea and say, "You have good instincts." Do you know whose son you are protecting?
Someone's son.
That's good. His life is
Not
valuable.
specify whether or not I know, and I leave it up to Daphne to infer that, because my character hasn't necessarily been briefed with who knows what knows, and basically being, I'm not going to tell anyone, is the best option for the kids. I'm just here for the kids.
That's good. Daphne just assumes she's being super discreet and secretive, which is also a good thing.
Yes.
Par for the course,
And
yeah.
given what went down, I know that Masim's not going to admit or think he wants a plushie, but he's a 12-year-old and he's probably going to go need hugs and reassurance, but put in such a way that he doesn't realize he's being given hugs and reassurance. And Belonda, I feel, would probably prefer to get emotional comfort from Norma, although I know that Norma will figure that part out later. And it'll be via the Bene Gesserit, not quite passive-aggressive, I don't know how you describe that, but time to puzzle out how exactly to make sure that Masim gets his plushie. Since he got to see a suicide today.
You try to accommodate, you try to, play that to Masim in particular, but when you do that, he kind of has a very stark reaction to it. He just kind of looks at it and kind of looks at you, and it's like,
metaphorical plushie.
oh, okay.
But equivalent of hugs, and it'll probably be the sneaky way that adults do of, I need comforting, though not quite as overacted as you do with a child.
And he's like, I appreciate what you're doing, but I'm more interested in finding my mother, he says. Sometimes I see her alive and outside Ishia. Other times I see her dead. I need to make sense of these things that I see. I need to find her. Kind of his eyes just kind of stare out into the distance.
Yep, this kid is definitely rattled. Doesn't want a plushie. He wants his mom.
Belonda is very visibly, like, not shaken, but you see that she's just sort of like a little nervous after seeing that entire scene play out in its entirety inside the situation room. So she's just kind of like, she's visibly trying to calm herself down and stuff. Eventually, though, your teaching, your instruction pays off, and you see Masim put like an offering hand on her shoulder. Not like, it's gonna be okay, champ, but just kind of like, hey, I was there too. I saw it,
Steadying.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of steadies her, and she kind of stuffs it down a little bit, and she kind of returns back into this, stoic mode. After which you kind of escort them off to their own rooms, and you rejoin the rest of the entourage back in the war room. For the interest of time, we're just going to say that they catch you up on what's happened, Pardo. And so now you have information about who Masim is, why Masim is, etc. And what the current situation is on Snicker and so on. They want to know your input. Yes.
I would like to ask one thing, though. Is there anything anyone leaves out? Is there anything anyone would intentionally not tell Pardo?
Daphne would probably downplay, like, yeah, I totally kind of sort of went to bed for fake you a couple hours ago.
She'd downplay, like, oh yeah, I knew it was one the whole time, sure.
There is no such thing as a... Oh, sorry.
I was just trying to keep peace in the house.
There is no such thing as a problem within the Bene Gesserit order. I don't know what you're talking about.
The Duchess specifically wants your input about this potentially explosive situation on Snicker. Just to remind you, like, the people that are constructing your ornithopters, on which the entirety of your house is teetering on, at House Minor status, has been taken over by these soldiers, these ex-soldiers that belonged that served underneath the Duke of House Cheshire before he died, and his brother, who was imprisoned since for that said crime many years ago. Except now the situation is different because they have been armed and equipped with advanced intelligence and weapons and stuff, and they have no known leadership to target, which makes dealing and dismantling this entire group very difficult from any kind of standpoint. she wants your input in particular, Pardo, because you are the House Mentat. Not to downplay Omelis's role as an advisor to her grace, but you are the strategist of this house. Your military mind is what constructed and created the architecture for the secret police that you employ. So she's looking to you for answers now.
Does House Carroll know anything about this?
You suspect that they do. High probability that if it is them that's arming them, then yes, they have intimate knowledge of it. If not, there's a passing possibility based on your own projections that they've already heard about the disruptions in ornithopter production, because, spoiler alert, they're in the same industry as you are. There's actually 3 big houses that are part of ornithopter construction and distribution. That's House Alfcardes, House Carroll, and of course House Cheshire. One of those houses you are in Canley with.
Yes.
The other is just a rival because they're jealous of you.
And I will devise, if we may, kidnapping of someone within House Carroll and hold them ransom until this situation is solved by House Carroll. In the meantime,
you see, Omelis is like, you want to escalate tensions with House Carroll.
well, there seems to be no leaders to take out within our factory. Seems like the only reasonable solution then, without declaring war on our own factory.
We would be hurting ourselves if we moved militarily against them. And of course, if we moved against House Carroll, that would open up a very different can of worms, I would imagine. There has to be another way. And you see, the Duchess is like, well, all ideas are welcome at this point because we are at a very, we are at a crisis point now. And like you said, Omelis, this could finish us if we fail to meet the Emperor's quota on Arrakis. This could cripple us beyond recognition. And it's like, Arrakis presents a very real possibility, an opportunity that we can once again be a great house. But those chances are getting slimmer and slimmer every day. And it's like, there has to be a way that we can diffuse this situation and keep this whole thing from imploding. Any other ideas? And she looks around the room. Her eyes scan over Lysander and Thea and Norma and Gwillian. Gwillian already said his piece, so he doesn't speak any more of that.
Do you have an alternative to suggest if there are no other plans?
Omelis is like, there is one thing we can try, but it is very, very risky. Your father's brother, Archibald, a general of great renown, he says, looking to Daphne. He was imprisoned for the crime of murdering his brother. However, many of the people on Snicker are fanatically loyal to your brother and him and believe that he was imprisoned incorrectly, that he was in fact innocent of any charges that were brought to him by House Cheshire. We could use this as a way to pacify these insurgents, if just so that we can move our people in, infiltrate their organization, and dismantle them from within. He looks to Gwillian when he says that. And then, of course, you can do whatever you wish, and he looks to Pardo. So as a means to try to bridge both of your ideas together with his own suggestion. It would be risky in that if we are to bring out the good general, we would have to give him some modicum of command. And in order to do that, our troops would have to be able to recognize his authority. In order to do that, we would have to absolve him of his crimes. And if we were to do that, my lady, it would mean you would no longer be in control of House Cheshire, and neither would Her Grace. And he looks over to the Duchess when he says that. And that's when it sort of dawns on her, like, oh shit. So if we let him out to pacify the insurgents, we have to pardon him, and if we pardon him, we inadvertently could give him the keys to the kingdom. That is the risk that you run by doing this.
I
And you
might
see
have an
Gwillian.
idea.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Lysander kind of speaks up a bit. I have an idea. Perhaps sending one of Gwillian's face dancers to infiltrate the insurgents, find out the point of origin, and pursue.
We can do this. Yes, of course.
I have.
What do we do once we find the origin of these insurgents, or at least their financiers? How do we regain control of the moon and production if they're unwilling to meet with anyone other than Her Grace and Lady Daphne?
Even if we do take out the root of the insurgents, what's to say they won't that they would surrender? They would
Precisely.
continue to work.
He nods in agreement.
I have a question for Eric, because Daphne is doing some Crusader Kings style error math in her head.
Okay.
So, if Archibald is restored to his position as head of household, does he have any children?
Does he?
No, because his love got killed off.
Oh no. This goes deep.
Okay.
Archibald, I'm sorry, but yeah. Ooh.
And
Well-
So yeah.
the person I want it to be, it might be a pretty big twist. So.
Is there any way to remove someone's title of nobility from the house? Like, he would be removed from exile, but he would be removed from our house.
He wasn't exiled. He was imprisoned. That's the
Imprisoned,
difference.
sorry. Would he be able to, for removal of imprisonment, revoke his title, his claim?
You could, but that would also defeat the purpose of why you're restoring him for the purpose of dealing with the insurgents. You know.
There's
Hey,
such a
here's
thing as
General so and so. He's no longer a general though. What?
Is there such
Well,
a
no,
thing
I
as
mean-
a partial pardon of shunting him over into an advisory role in exchange for there are truths he has yet to tell us?
Essentially, the Alfred plea.
Yes, of like, we're not saying he's not family. We're just saying that we're not saying whether or not he did it. We're giving him a pardon for deeds as opposed to a clearly innocent. Proving his innocence is up to him later. Like a commuted sentence,
That is
basically.
the question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could try to. You could do that. I mean, you have control of the prison system on Jabberwock. This, you could make a deal with the prison, or you can extricate him otherwise. Like, it's up to you how to decide how to get him out and how to pardon him, if at all.
I think
The
we
fact that
should.
he's still alive suggests a degree of mercy already.
I think
Yes.
that we should not make any firm plans until we visit this person and speak with him directly.
You see, Adeline nods and she smiles at you. I mean, back when you were in the hospital, she kind of grabbed your hand and she told you that she thanked you for protecting them and stuff. And she seems to almost beam with when you say stuff like that. Like, you're obviously in control, and she admires that about that you're doing so. So she kind of like gives you this knowing smile that she's proud of you.
I mean,
She's
I
like,
won't lie and say that I'm motivated by a desire to keep my position as heir of the house, but I also would like to know, once we explain to Archibald the unique position I'm in, she says, looking to Masum.
I always get a lot of hate for these, but I'm gonna post it anyway. My almost 2-year-old.
Perhaps there might be
stove
some
This is
scrap
only
of loyalty
his
to the
third
house
or
we can
fourth
pull
time
on.
cooking, and he did so amazing.
And
He
you
said that
see,
he wanted oatmeal, and we went over a
Adeline's
bunch
like,
of
it sounds
different
like you've
recipes to
already
try,
made your
and he
decision,
decided on pumpkin pie
at least for
oatmeal.
now.
I think that was
And
a
it's like,
great
go
choice because
to
it
the
is
garden,
really simple to make, but just challenging
speak
enough.
with him,
It really is so
find out
incredible
where
to
his
watch
loyalties lie,
progress as he
and we
continues
shall
to make
see
meals.
how
You can
to
see
proceed.
how much more confident he is now versus his first couple of times cooking. Here
And it's
he
like,
decided
however,
he didn't want to wear his
however,
chef
whatever it
hat
is that you
anymore, but
decide
at least he
as a
put it away.
group,
I
as an
really didn't need
entourage,
to give him much
it's
direction
like we
for
need
this
to tread very
recipe, kind of
carefully.
just knew to throw it all
This
in
man
the
was
pot and
imprisoned
cook it
for
up.
over a
This was
decade
also
for
great
crimes
for
that he
his
committed against
self-esteem,
this
because at the
house.
end,
Unless we
he
can
went
prove
to the parent and
otherwise,
pulled down the stool,
we need to
and he
keep
asked for
very
help.
close
I
eyes on
encouraged
him
him
at
and said, "You
all
can try. If you need
times.
help after,
He,
then I will
by
help you."
right,
And once
he
got to
has
the
line
table
of
by himself,
succession.
was
He is
so
older
proud.
than
It's
both of
truly
us.
incredible how
She's
capable
referring to
kids
herself
are.
and
I always
Daphne,
get a lot
of
of hate
course.
for these, but I'm
So
gonna
we have to
post
tread
it
very
anyway.
carefully.
My almost
Understood?
2-year-old.
Understood?
Please be careful. And she motions for Lysander, gather a group together, an expeditionary group. Take whoever you need to go with you. Go to the garden and speak with my uncle. With that, we'll switch over to Archibald here.
Daphne's
Sorry, go ahead.
definitely going.
Yes, absolutely. Archibald, after the events that took place that fateful evening when you were tortured and the information was taken from your mind, you keep trying to remember the thing that you forgot. You just can't. And you're sort of languishing in this place. It's not exactly like super hard prison life, but it's not exactly Club Med either. Eventually, the people that organized the prison, some of which were very loyal to you, and have treated you very kindly in your time here, they come at you and they still salute you, General. It's like, there's a group here to see you.
Eddie's men?
Cheshire.
Who is it?
What's that?
Well, I'm gonna go Eddie's men.
Hmm.
And then I'm
It's like,
gonna
they're
ask,
soldiers, sir, from House Cheshire. Too young to have served under you, however.
anyone of nobility?
Yes.
Did you see?
There's one among them who's a princess, Lady Daphne.
Darling niece has come to see her old uncle. I wonder what the special occasion's for.
It seems they want to parlay. They want to speak to you at length about something important.
Parlay. How so? Do you know?
There were scant on details, Commander. Would you like to receive them in your cell, or shall we move this outside somewhere?
No. We won't bring the princess into the cell. That's very unfitting for someone of high nobility. Let's see if we can find something more suitable for her to make her more comfortable.
Put her in the garden, in the outside courtyard, then, my lord.
Perfect.
Right away. You see that they open up the cell, and of course the customary, procedure to have guards escort you out to the garden. They come back out, and yet standing there not too far away is an entire entourage of soldiers and house retainers. Just as the sun is going down, you see like their ornithopter like in the background as they're walking up into this luscious looking garden courtyard out front. And that's where we'll stop until next week. The time that we have for this session. Jared flip the table. All right. Right. Well, that's all the time we have for this session. I hope everyone here and those watching enjoyed the show. We'll continue our adventures into the Imperium next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you enjoyed tonight's program, feel free to check out our other awesome adventures and terrifying tales. Tuesdays are now Mecha Hack Taco Tuesday with Space Lord Pajama's awesome new Mecha Hat campaign. Wednesdays, the awesomeness continues with the One Ring, 4 Swords of the North. Thursdays, Rachel runs the new Vampire the Requiem Brood game, followed by Pathfinder Undying. Friday brings us the continuation of Rachel's epic Masks of Nyarlathotep campaign, followed by Scarred Lands Dracogenesis Season 2. Saturday, we have the D&D campaign Usurpers of Ruination. Sunday, we have our very own Kisama, who's running a hot new 5e setting, playing Gia with the current campaign to rival the gods, and Cult Divinity Lost Phantasmagoria afterwards. In the After Dark category, we have Solemn Veil on usually later on this evening, but we're going to have to take a break for next week as our illustrious GM is a little bit under the weather. Please get well soon, Tyler. And of course, we have SCP, the RPG Mimetic Hazard on Saturdays. All these terrifying tales begin at just 11:55 Eastern Standard Time. So just stay tuned for those during the week. And now, for those of you who stayed after the credits rolled, it's time to vote for favorites. Everybody in this game can select the player as their favorite for that session for any reason. Recipients will receive a reward in the form of 1 advancement point. For viewers, voting is open as well. You can choose a new favorite from each week for all shows, but you have to be quick because voting ends the moment that the closing reel finishes. So be sure to cast your votes in the Twitch chat as soon as you can. The recipients will receive a reward in the form of a reroll for one or all of their dice pool. So, beginning with Rachel, who played Daphne this evening. Tell the good people who you are and who's your favorite for this evening.
Oh, goodness. Yes, my name is Rachel. I played Lady Daphne, whose family dramas just keep getting better and better. I love it, Eric. It's so much fun. I am stolen fires pretty much everywhere on the internet. And yes, as Eric said, you will see me Thursday for the finale of Ambrose's game. And then I will be running Vampire the Requiem and All Brood Chronicle. I'm excited. We're going to have one of the writers on that book as part of the cast. On Fridays, I run Masks of Nyarlathotep. We are coming to the end of the New York chapter. Should be a lot of fun. And you can also find me on Plastic Age Place this Wednesday playing some D&D. As for my vote, like, the Pardo thing was fun. I'm gonna have to give it to Jared, because I can sense the role play that waits for us on the horizon, and I can't wait.
I have no idea how much I had prepared for this role.
And like, you were super cagey when like, oh, who are you playing? Someone.
Yeah.
I see now.
I didn't want anybody to know because I know it's gonna specifically mess with Lady Daphne.
Mm-hmm.
Well done, well played. Devin, who played Norma this evening. Tell the good people who you are and who's your favorite.
Hello all, I am Devin. You can find me online at Sword of Sullied, and tonight, I'm gonna have to give it to Panda for the children and how she dealt with them. That was just fantastic.
The children hurting.
And then just being like, and this is why you're not as badass as you think, little one.
Excellent. Go ahead.
No.
Key, who played Pardo and not Pardo this evening.
Yes.
Tell the good people who you are and who's your favorite.
Yeah, I'm Kisama, now with 50% more forehead. You can find me on Twitter at TrueKisama. And I've been Pardo Reed and Pardo Reed. My favorite for this night, though, is very difficult to choose. Oh, jeez. My vote. Ah, goodness. This is incredibly difficult. My vote has to go to Lysander for sneaking up on me.
For that quick action. Yeah.
Quick action.
Panda, who of course played Thea. Where can people find you online, and who's your favorite?
I'm at Vebbles on various parts of the internet, and this is a tough call for me as well, but I'm going to have to deal with the vote for Pardo's, the not Pardo. because the stabby reaction, but also the conflict that I don't think the face dancer realized he was a plant until the last minute. Like, I think he'd been conditioned to think he was the Mentat by how he was being played.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I'm also highly entertained by the fact that theoretically Key could have voted for himself because they play two characters.
Great. Ambrose, who played Lysander this evening, where can people find you, and who's your favorite?
Yes, tough decision. Okay. So, you can find me all over the internet as Am Changeling, and you can find me on Etsy at Neat and Co Designs. And I have to give a super honorable mention to Panda for standing in between the children and harm. But I have to give it to Pardo. Which Pardo? I'm not telling.
Great. Excellent. And Jared, who played Archibald this evening, the general. Tell people where they can find you online, and who's your favorite.
Hello, my name is Jared. You can find me at The Real Life Jared. And today, my favorite, I'm going to have to give it back to Rachel, because the way she's playing, she really reminds me of one of those calm people, but
I respect it.
she reminds me of one of those calm people, but I feel like something's brewing, and that she has a lot of
oh, you sense the
things
subtlety.
going on. I guarantee she's already saying, "Oh, how am I going to assassinate this guy?"
You're seeing like the 40 chess being played under the surface. Okay, I got you. Good
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did we get you, Devin? I had a brain fart. Okay, just making sure. Okay, excellent. All right. I've been Eric at Modern Recluse on Twitter. You can find me here next week on Monday, and then on Tuesday for Twilight 2000, which begins on December 7th. So stay tuned to that. Big thanks as always to our patrons for supporting what we do. And if you want to be awesome and do the same, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/VorpalTales to keep up to date on what we're doing throughout the month by checking the calendar on VorpalTales.com. Thanks to you, our viewers and fans, for tuning in. As always, never sit with your back to the wall. Always remember to bring your shield emitter, and be careful with whom you instill your trust. For in the game of houses, nothing is truly as it seems.